What's happening, y'all? This is Osirez, the PC Pimp, and today we're going to take a look at a game called Warhammer 40,000 Dawn of War 2. Alright, so Warhammer Dawn of War 2, 40,000 words. It's developed by Relic, published by Sega, and ported by Feral Interactive. Yes, another Linux port made by Feral Interactive. As a disclaimer, the key was given to me for review purposes, so that we can bring you this juicy Linux-induced content. So let's check it out. This game is based on the Warhammer universe, if you haven't figured that out by now, which you can liken to something like Lord of the Rings, but set in a distant, dystopic future. It's a real-time strategy or RTS game that has, unlike some of its peers in this genre, has a low barrier of entry. This game was initially released back in 2009. As for the gameplay, it is easy to digest and understand, which comes as a great surprise for me because I don't like these RTS games where it's like a spreadsheet simulator. You're just basically envisioning the battlefield by numbers. This game feels more like a game to me, as somebody who's not a super hardcore RTS fan, of course. The pace is kept steady by dropping the base building aspect, something that is typically a staple in RTS games. It is notable that your squads are carried over from mission to mission, gaining more experience and levels as you progress, which is also cool. So you don't have to your people don't start back over, and you don't have to rebuild them back up by levels every time you start a new mission or game. It does an extra job of providing info on what's going on, and there is co-op multiplayer. As for the graphics, all of the game itself is a bit dated by some 7 odd years. As of the time of this recording, the elements are well represented in the game and fun to look at. Unit animations will occasionally have you zooming in just to appreciate how ballin' this game actually looks. You get plenty of options to tailor the performance to your hardware. I was able to reliably play at ultra presets, no issues there. Unfortunately, I didn't have the time to try each setting and see how much each one impacted the performance, but I have a feeling even on a lower end system that this game will run relatively well. The built-in benchmark, once you run it, will even give you suggested settings based on your score, which I think is a huge bonus in this time and age where some of these graphic settings for some people mean absolutely nothing. On to the sound. Not much to say here. There's lots of boom boom, lots of pew-pews. For some reason, the weapon sounds are unusually loud for some reason, but they're well placed. The sounds of multitudes of armies firing back and forth is a bit awe-inspiring. Actually, it's pretty cool to listen to when you have lots of units on the screen actually shooting back and forth at each other. The voiceover is good enough to be believable for this type of game, but to me, it really doesn't play a big role. It's there. It's okay. It's whatever. The controls, not overly complicated, but I do suggest that you get familiar with them, as knowing them will make life in playing Warhammer much easier. It does kind of give you a walkthrough on how to do things and a tutorial, but a cheat sheet or something might be helpful if this is not your type of game and you just don't understand the control scheme. All control input was responsive and smooth, no issues with controls whatsoever. I did not try this with a Xbox controller because that really doesn't make any sense, and I do not have a Steam controller to try it with, so that is that. Performance really pegs 1 or 2 cores constantly. This game was made back in 2009. It's probably not very optimized for multi-threading, so it really hits 1 or 2 cores. So that is what that is. Game data and progress is saved from Windows to Linux and vice versa. So if you already own this game and you've played it on Windows and you've got a good amount of progression, you don't have to worry about losing your progression in the game. The Steam save cloud thing will work here. The game sits at a steady 60 frames per second, no issues at all, which is friggin' awesome. Even with a fair amount of action on screen, there's a small dip into the 50s, but not really noticeable unless you're looking for it. Absolutely no issues with the game itself. Also, the game doesn't crash, the game doesn't have issues, the game does exactly what the game is supposed to do, and that's play. You need at least Ubuntu 16.04, a 2 gig CPU, I'm assuming a dual core, 4 gigs of memory or RAM, 8 gigs of hard drive space, and 1 gig GPU. The performance delta between Windows and Linux is pretty close, with Linux having a 60 FPS average and Windows having an 88 FPS or frames per second average, everything else being almost identical. If you look at the screen, you'll see the respective benchmarks. I will also say that it would seem that on the Windows side there might be some extra, not graphic options, but graphics or graphical effects that are going on in the game that might not be in the Linux version, but you would have to play them both back to back to have seen or known that. It's more like lighting and bloom effects, I think is what it's called, but no big deal there. Pretty much the game is identical across the board, and performance seems to be really good for a port. So, final thoughts. Base game is about $20 as of time of recording this video. There's a couple of collections you can buy that immensely adds to the content in this game. The Master Collection includes Retribution and Chaos Rising expansion packs. The Grand Master Collection includes the expansions that I have just said, plus tons of DLC and some aesthetic pieces that are in the game. Is this game worth it? So, Warhammer is a legendary status. It has a legendary status for a good reason. The universe is well thought out, deep in substance, and has all the ingredients of a good fantasy. Throw that in with some really solid and easy to understand gameplay that scales really well, and you have a very solid game even for non-RTS fans, which I am one of them. The story is engaging, and it drives the game at a really nice pace, which is also good for a game or a genre that I am usually not drawn to. It's good to have the pace to be pretty steady, but not too fast, so I get frustrated, and not too slow, so you get bored. I had very little knowledge of the Warhammer universe before this game. I mean, I've heard of it, but I don't really know about it. But felt like I wasn't missing anything while playing through the campaign or the story mode. I can say with little pause that this game is worth it 100%. The performance is there, the fun is there, it's engaging, and the price is fair. Furl has another home run with this port. It's a grand slam, really. If you support Linux games, you support Linux ports, and you want to support it with your money, there's no reason to support it with complaining. If you want to support Linux ports with money, I would say go buy this game. Definitely, it's fun, it works, the port is solid, and it's just all around. The game is good too. I mean, that's what you buy games for, have fun. So this was our look at Dawn of War 2. Warhammer 40,000. Dawn of War 2 or 40K. I don't know. These names are too long. We need shorter names. But anyhow, hit the like button. Hit the dislike button. Hit the subscribe button for more Linux gaming content. And this is Osirez. I'm out.